Alright, what's going on, you guys? I haven't done a shave video in a while. Today is Sunday, is it May? Yeah, May 16th. Been staying really busy and get started with my shave real quick. I'm sure I'll talk about a few different things today, including brushes a little bit, blades. So this brush I've been kind of figuring out if I really want to keep it or not. We'll talk about it a little bit more. This is the Vintage Plisson, and today I'm using SV Cosmo. This one I haven't bloomed because I'm getting really close to finishing it. I'd assume off of this I could probably get 15 more shaves. I don't know. So anyway, sometimes when I feel like there isn't like a substantial amount of soap, sometimes the blooming, it doesn't really offer anything. So in general, the practice that I have is bloom the SV and then use the bloom water. So hope you guys have all been well. I've just been working a lot, and I have been wanting to try to get in a shave video for you guys, but honestly, it really hasn't worked out, and there's just been a lot of things going on, and it's just easier to not shave. I'm surprised I even have this amount of growth. I'll just go a little bit more. But yeah, I have been shaving pretty frequently. It just so happens these last few days I just haven't fit in a shave. So, and then this thing, it hasn't been an issue for a while. I know I've mentioned this on video, so I can't figure out if this is an ingrown hair, so we may see some bleeding later, which I've mentioned before is kind of like it's not the most fun thing to capture on a shave video, but it is what it is, unfortunately. So, real quick, before I face lather, just make sure this doesn't fall off. Let me just assemble the razor. I don't know where these are made. This is Gillette Blue Extra, but I'm under the impression that these are usually found in the French markets. So I have my titanium carbon cap, or the head. This is on its third use, so I have a backup one just in case I'm not really loving how much the razor is working. I'm kind of trying to decide between the minus base plate, but we'll start with the plus base plate. So, and I've been kind of going without the washer this week. I don't know, I'm just kind of trying something different, doing stuff without the washers. I know I'm going to get plenty of use out of these base plates, so if this ends up getting more and more scratched, these razors are getting used. So, okay. Yeah, I had ordered off of the BST some Gillette 7 o'clock blacks, the super platinums. I don't always see them referred to as ninjas quite as often as I used to, but maybe some of you guys have heard them called ninjas. Okay, let's get some water going. Yeah, I've really just been playing around with blades. Just ordering blades, and I have some that should get here next month. I ordered what's called Gillette Winners. It's like a black background with a guy giving a thumbs up, which I remember seeing years ago. And it's just funny how packaging is, I don't know. I remember seeing those years ago and just kind of saying like, oh, those are probably terrible blades. For no reason other than I just wasn't impressed or didn't think the packaging was cool. So I'm guilty of being able to have a bias for kind of no reason. So I got 100 pack of those. I want to say those are coming from an Asian country. I don't know if those are a little bit more prominent, so I can't quite remember. This knot's really holding on to water. I don't know if you guys can see it running down the handle. I got Gillette Gold. I think the packaging is kind of red, and I believe those are a platinum coated blade. I can't remember if I shaved with the Gillette Chinese made London Bridge, which kind of like has that orange packaging, but I got a Wilkinson Sword London Bridge, which I had used what was called light brigades before, and I don't know if those were maybe from like the 70s. Those are an English made blade. Let me just get a little bit more. I don't know if I loaded enough product. Cosmo is pretty thirsty. I mean, there's a lot of SV soaps that I could tell you guys like can handle a lot of water. You know, a couple that maybe are worth noting in my experience. Apuntia seems to really do well with a lot of water. And the Desert Vetiver, since I used that one, and that's a newer one, that one takes up water pretty well. The Flying Mango, but Cosmo does have a pretty dense lather. So for those of you guys that kind of prefer, you know, like a tallow or something with lanolin, this is more or less like what I would use during the very dry, cold winter months. It just so happens that right now in SoCal we are it's kind of cold today. It's a little rainy, so not my best lather. I don't know. Maybe that's just a little lack of loading. So anyway, so here we go. Shave number 3 on this Gillette blue extra blade. I'm going to go against the grain first pass. I know some people that you know do videos and stuff. One of them that was happening a couple weeks ago was why I wet shave, and kind of unrelated, I guess. When I saw that, it's not like I thought it was a bad idea for a video or didn't want to do it, but something that I was thinking about was maybe for a theme. Future investments in shaving. And I think just in the last few months, I've been thinking about, you know, really kind of as I continue in this hobby, what do I want or what am I most likely to spend money on in the future? What do you guys think? Does this plus plate do a pretty damn good job on this amount of beard growth? I think it does. I remember messaging Sean somewhat recently, just asking, what have you been shaving with? What's the setup? And he was saying he was shaving about every 5 days using the plus base plate with a Kai blade. So right now when I do this, you guys, as far as the angle, I'm kind of leaning into both the edge of the blade and the base plate. That's kind of where I feel like when I use this plus base plate with the bigger gap, regardless of where the blade exposure is, I like kind of, like, I don't know, here, real quick. Let's see something real quick. When I go here, if I go with the grain, kind of that same angle. it still does a good job. There's something about trying to minimize those passes, and going against the grain has just always been something that seems to work for me. I mean, the caveat is that I do have pretty nick prone skin, so it's maybe not the best in regards to that. But as long as it's not like a major cut. So future investments right now, and this is very much subject to change. If anybody has watched any of my videos, sometimes in my discussions, will kind of sometimes make like a contradictory statement where I may say I like one thing, and then maybe in the next, I'll just recognize like a counterpoint. And I kind of sometimes think that both can exist, and it's really up to you to kind of figure out what you think kind of aligns with where you're at. So to give you guys an example, as much of a fan as I am with Plisson as a brand, in my experience using all of the brushes, I've maybe tried like, three or four of the different synthetics? And then, I would say probably close to like 15 to 20 of most of those being vintage Badger brushes. I would say I've tried 2 to 3 more current Plissons. So real quick, let me just get a little bit of water. Okay. Very nice first pass. I think what I'm going to do is we'll go for the Plus base plate. So let's switch it out for the Plus. I'm really liking the Plus a lot more than the original base plate. The bigger gap and the reduced blade exposure, that's really the main thing for me, is the reduced blade exposure seems to work much better for my skin. Okay. So, okay, I've got the Plus base plate, so we'll lather up. And underneath my jawline, it's feeling a little tested, but it's all right. But like this is one of the better examples of vintage Plisson. I think most of that has to do with the knot and the hair. Every single Plisson brush that I've tried, the knot was very well shaped. I think in general, the difference with the Plisson brand is whatever hair, if you're getting pure Badger, I don't know if this is considered high mountain white. I would put it pretty much in that same vein, but if this is really European white, that's fine by me. European gray, I think they have like 4 different grades. The hair that they use is not necessarily the most special. I think most of the vintage ones, they're using really, really solid hair. But it's not just the hair that makes them, in my opinion, some of the better, or, basically my favorite types of knots. It's that the hair works in conjunction with the type of knot, the size, the latherability. I think I probably should have loaded more. I don't know. There's just something about the way that this lather's turning out. I'm only going to do one more pass. But for me, the reason why I wanted to use this is I'm so back and forth on whether I want to sell it or not that I think I'm going to keep using it. more regularly to really know, like, okay, I want to keep it after using it like 5 or 10 more times, or I'll make the decision that, I like it. It's just that I don't need to keep this one. So I don't know. We'll see. I think that the Plisson brushes for me are very much a curiosity buy. They're not a valuable investment, because most of the time the purchase price of them is fairly high compared to like most other brushes, kind of excluding like how much we might be paying for like a current brush maker here in America that's doing like a custom resin, and whether they're sourcing or making their own knots. Sometimes those can get pretty pricey. So I'm not really comparing it to those, but the Plisson brushes are just very, I do believe that there's mystique in them. I guess I'm willing to pay for the so-called mystique. For the most part, I'd say 95% of the purchases I've made with the Plissons are generally, in my opinion, the brushes are high caliber. If I had to give you guys like a couple, knocks, specifically the couple times I've had some plexi handled brushes. For some reason, the two, I think I've had 3 of those. 2 of them had a slightly loose knot when they're not being used, and then once you soak them and you're using them in the shave, the knot kind of swelled up and it didn't more or less have movement. So I don't know why that was the case. I don't know that I've ever had that with any other types of brushes or brands. The other couple of knocks would be the 2 newer Plissons that I've had. The grading of the hair wasn't as good. The stickers and the decals are, I don't know. The newest one that I have, which I would say is probably one of the most current Badger brushes that I've tried. So let's say it was maybe made in the last 5 or 10 years. The labeling is halfway off. I remember using it 2 times ago, and the stickers were coming off. So I don't know that I would really prefer to invest anymore in the more current Plissons. I'm very happy with, again, that first version 1 synthetic, and that's much more of a daily use brush that I could use happily for the rest of my life. I would consider myself like a brush aficionado, and while I do have a preference for Badger, when I'm daily shaving, this type of knot, the hair, it's resilient enough that it's too much for my face. So I wanted to use it, one, to just get some use in with it. It's a little different, so I'm sure you guys will kind of appreciate me using this over the floppy mop Plisson synthetic. But to give you guys an idea, I'm sure when they're shaping these before the handle gets involved, the difference with the Plisson type knots is that the lather gets made at the tips. So there's really, no glue bump, so to speak, in most of the Plisson brushes I've had. Excuse me. But the lathering process is just very intuitive. I know for a lot of people, it's just not going to have enough backbone. The loft is too high for most people. The pricing really turns a lot of people off. And like I said, I know that if I'm going to buy a Plisson, it's very likely that if I'm going to sell it, I know that I'm going to take a loss on it. So it's not a high value item. There's not a good return on investment, in my opinion. So I guess to continue, so I was lucky enough on the BST, maybe like a few months ago, I had shown you guys, these are my two favorite brushes. They're both Shave Revolution. This one's the best lathering brush. The shape of the knot, just it's the best lathering brush. This one is also tied. It's a little bit less dense. This is a little bit more of, it's soft in so many ways and just very painterly. So I love both of these brushes, and I was lucky enough to purchase a backup brush of this. The only difference is this one doesn't have the labeling on the bottom. I'll talk about this in a second. And I also got a Shave Revolution High Mountain White. You can see that this is maybe a little bit more gray, and what this is called a pure High Mountain White. So when Justin was still running the Shave Revolution business, this apparently is less treated, and he was describing this on one of the podcasts as hydrophobic. And I think what that meant was, he said it doesn't necessarily need to be soaked. So I don't know. I wanted to get this because Shave Revolution knots are pretty much my favorite. So if I had a choice to shave with one brush for the rest of my life, would I prefer to use a Plisson or something else? And I just kind of use this because they're more notorious for the price and how rare they are, especially like the vintage ones. 100%, I'd prefer to use one of the Shave Revolution brushes. It's just, again, part of it does have to do with the price, and when you try to remove that, it's a little bit tougher. But I happily enjoy these just when I shave. I really do love when I get to use one of these brushes. I've only got a few, other brushes. I mean, the Vylong, this one I really like. Very soft 3-band. I'm excited I haven't shaved with this pure High Mountain White. I did get a chance to try this as a prototype brush years and years ago. And the main thing is, even if this ends up being too scritchy for me, the overall quality in how these are shaped is very much in line with what I like about the Plisson. I don't really care that much about the hair alone. I want the shaping and the craftsmanship and the knot. That's what really makes face lathering the most fun for me. So if this ends up being too scritchy, I'm just going to slowly bleach it until it's soft enough for me to really enjoy. So although I love Plisson, it's just not something that I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys that it's the best brush, that it's the best brand. It's just one of those things where I like a lot of the older models, but a lot of the times for me, I'm not a fan of the horn handles. They're beautiful. Do I appreciate the craftsmanship in them? Yes, I'm kind of hard on a lot of my shaving gear, and although I really do take care of my brushes, when the horn handle is around a bunch of water in a shave, I worry about it slipping. I worry about the conditioning of the horn because it's constantly getting wet. So I put on the Neat's Foot oil and the Renaissance wax after I'm done using these, and I take care of it the best that I can. But it's more of it's kind of more of a collector's item to me. So as much as I really appreciate how useful they are, I don't really care for the horn handles. I much prefer the resin. If I drop this, it's probably not going to break, and if it does, I'm not going to be that worried. I'll just throw the knot in a different handle. Whereas I've been lucky enough, I've had quite a few of the horn-handled Plissons, and I never dropped them. So anyway, let me throw on the aftershave. What am I using? The Cosmo? Okay. Let me see if I have one of these Cosmo samples left. I don't think I know where it is, so we'll go with the Desert Vetiver. Okay. I guess to just kind of make another couple comments about Badger brushes. I think for me, you guys, I've been having a hard time really kind of figuring out where I'm at with Badger brushes. I have quite a few that I'm going to be selling. Ooh. Just a little bit of a sting, especially right there. But this aftershave, the Desert Vetiver, is really nice. I've always been a big fan of SV soaps, but the aftershaves are, my skin responds very positively to them. What was I talking about? Badger brush. I think that I will continue to purchase Badger brushes. I think that the last year I've really tried to slow down to a point where I'm happy with what I have, and I absolutely am. I just realized, like, especially in this last week, I'm very likely sometime in the future, I'll probably pick up a Thader Silver Tip, a Savo Row, 3-band. I wouldn't be surprised if I end up getting another brush from Aldo at the Varley. Thought there was another. Oh, there's a German-made brush that the Superior Shave sells, and that one's like a 23 millimeter by, I think it's like a 57 millimeter loft. I think I have to just kind of get over the fact that part of me wants to stop buying Badger brushes and keep investing in them. But as I've mentioned before, Badger brushes, or just brushes, like again, here's the two. I really love these. I get why people say they're kind of soulless, but ultimately the tool that these are really used for, in my opinion, is they are the in-between for the soap or the cream that you use, and they're there to apply and make the best consistency lather. And there's something about the time that you're spending working that lather on your face, and I would prefer to be able to face lather for a little bit longer rather than less amount of time. So if I'm using like a 2-band brush that's real dense, or if you guys look back in my archive, the Samag Shave Nook 2020, that one's like just way too stiff, way too dense, way too scrubby for me. So that one I can't really face lather for the same amount of time that I could, easily face lather with this and not irritate my skin. I could probably face lather with this for like 3-4 minutes. It's just, again, very soft in a lot of different ways. But I was talking to Ollie sometime the last couple weeks, and I had mentioned to him just kind of a general guess in how much money I've invested in shaving. And I had told him a majority of that was on brushes. And I do kind of feel guilty. I think that it's just a little too much. And I have to remind myself that, there is some enjoyment and exploration that you have to allow for. So, in shaving, it's like if you're going to buy 100 brushes, I doubt you're going to end up keeping all those. So what you do is you buy them to try them, and if you don't like or love them, you either sell them to a friend, either at a discount, or you try to sell it, at a fair price to move it along. But a lot of the times, you're not going to get the full return on investment that you might have had when you paid for it. So, and that's what I forgot to mention. I mean, these were both $20. When I bought the original one years ago, I think this was 6 years ago. I got this for $40, and this is no joke, no exaggeration to me. It's the best performing, best lathering brush. I can't say that you're going to necessarily love every attribute, but I'm very strong in my conviction that I would doubt anyone would say that if they use this, they got a bad lather. Whether you're using a cream or a hard soap, it's going to pick up the soap well, and it's going to apply the lather and mix in the water into a very, very consistent lather. It's not going to make it too airy. It's not going to make it too bubbly. This does have a good amount of backbone. It's not going to be the stiffest, but again, when I'm able to pick up a backup of my favorite brush for 20 bucks, it's just very hard to say that I don't get that much more enjoyment out of using the Plisson. So I'm sure some of you guys could understand that. You may not necessarily say if you had those two brushes. I could understand why people would want to use the Plisson. But from a utilitarian point, I'm going to use those $20, $40 brushes easily for the rest of my life. So I don't know that I need to worry too much about needing more brushes. So anyway, the only other thing I was going to mention is, I'll keep testing these blades, but with Kai blades, and I was thinking about this, I can't recommend Kai blades enough. And one of the things is the packaging, in my experience, I'm coming up maybe like 9 years in wet shaving. The Kai blades have always been the same packaging. The blades are always wrapped in the white nondescript packaging. There's no, what do they say, writing, or there's no printing on the blades. Are they the cheapest? No. These are usually some of the more expensive current blades for the price, but I've always had consistent results. The only caveat is, do they work for me in most razors? Like 90% of the time. But although they are my favorite, there are times where when they're in a certain razor, the sharpness just gets stretched out just a little too much for me. And although the smoothness is still there, my skin sometimes reacts to having a Kai blade in some of the razors. So when I get a chance to, shave more, like I said, I've got another one of the Gillette Blue Extras. This is the Wilkinson, made in England, London Bridge. So I'll have to compare these to the Gillette China London Bridge. Like I said, I've got the Gillette Winners. I've kind of continued purchasing. I really like the Israeli red pack personas, which apparently get packaged in Mexico and then sold through the different distributors in North America. That's no longer a thing. I still got a good amount of the red pack personas, but I've been buying the German European 10 packs because although for a while I was under the impression that they are a different blade, I have to say I think they're pretty much the same. So I'll do some more testing with those. This is why I brought up blades. See, again, with the Persona, those red pack Personas are supposed to, again, be the same as the 10-pack Europeans. You also have what's called the crystals. I used to get those a lot more frequently from different vendors. Those are apparently supposed to be the same Persona, Platinum Chrome. And it just gets kind of annoying and confusing when there's that seed of doubt where it's like, why are they supposed to be the same thing, but yet they're packaged differently? I guess to sell more blades, or it just differentiates certain markets. This one's supposed to be sold in North America. This one's supposed to be sold to the European. So, I don't know. I just would prefer for less confusion. And then Razor Blades Club. I don't know where they're at. Maybe they're an American distributor. So I was looking at that the last couple months, and last week I go on there again, and two things popped up. The Wizamits were back in stock, and then the Polsilver Super Iridium, and I never have a box of them laying around, but it's got like the 3 different colors. So I apologize if you guys don't know what I'm talking about as far as the Polsilver Super Iridiums. But those went back in stock. And I haven't seen those in stock in a lot of places for a while. Now, here was the interesting thing. On the Wizamit, it now was added that it was Gillette in front of it. So again, here's another great blade. I love the Polsilver Super Iridiums for years. I highly recommend those. The Wizamits seem to work well for a lot of people. I'm not as in love with them compared to like if I just kind of stuck with Kai blades for the most part. But again, it's like, why is there so much mystery around the Wizamit Polsilver? It's like, are they Are they no longer manufactured? Is one vendor able to get a hold of a bunch of old new stock? I kind of just get over all the confusion. So again, that's kind of why I wanted to bring up the Kai blade. Are they a little bit more pricey than most blades? Yep. But there's not a bunch of changes in the packaging. There's not a bunch of rebranding for different markets when it's essentially the same blade. So I think that's worth mentioning, that in shaving, the consistency in products is kind of what I find I kind of shoot for. And again, you guys, I use SV a lot. It's not because I think it's the best, but out of, we'll say like the 20 SV pucks that I've bought, with exception of this Colonia soap, because on this one, the 7th ingredient, instead of it being water, this one uses the green tea extract and then it's water. The 20 SV pucks that I've bought, although they do contain different active ingredients, the first 6 ingredients are always the same when you buy SV. And I don't know, I think that there's something about that whether you like SV's performance or not, whether it suits you, you do hear a lot about people complaining about when they like a product, they want to be able to purchase the same thing over and over. And a lot of companies or artisans want to keep reformulating. And I'm all for that. I'm not saying that that's not a good thing, or that I don't purchase, let's say someone's new formula. But how can I complain when there's that amount of consistency in the formula that I keep buying? It's basically I'm purchasing a new SV puck each time to see how the active ingredient works on my skin. I already know that their formula is more or less going to work well as far as lathering. Although the prices have increased on the SV soaps, I continue to be impressed as the beta formulas keep getting updated. So do they have less and less value to me? I do. I do think that there's a certain amount that I'm paying for that is branding or marketing or, fluff, so to speak. But it's not enough to the point where I'm complaining and saying it's not worth me purchasing it. So that's just my experience. I think that consistency in shaving is something that you kind of have to find where it's worth investing in. So again, I appreciate you guys letting me kind of ramble on. I knew that this video was kind of going to go long, but I'm sure whenever I upload my next video, I'll use some different brushes. I'll probably use a mix of whether it's SV or some of the other shave soaps, and we'll test out some other blades. But yeah, I've just been kind of sticking with the same stuff, so nothing really different on that end other than just trying out some new blades here and there. I really hope you guys have all been doing well. Sorry I've been so absent, but like I said, here in SoCal, things keep getting looser and looser with restrictions. The economy keeps moving up into, getting back to normal, so to speak. So I've just been very busy, and getting in a shave on video has just been really difficult. So I hope you guys are all staying safe, and I look forward to catching up with you guys sometime soon. So I'll talk to you guys later.